think I'm ready to do part 3 here of do the video part 3. The first video was about how the symptoms I had leading up to surgery. The second video was about meeting the doctor and surgeon, and the aneurysm led me to have surgery quickly. And then this one is going to be about waking up and the hospital stay. And I just want to do a little disclaimer here. If somebody, this is the part that was hardest for me to talk about to people. And if you're getting ready to have surgery, maybe I wouldn't watch this unless this is probably more for people that have the surgery and are struggling afterward. And maybe to give you a little help and encouragement if you're having a hard time, if you're struggling, that you can get through it. And maybe some causes and reasons for it, and advocate for yourself and that kind of thing. That's why I'm doing this video. Is I wish I would have been able to see someone else who struggled. All I was seeing was people that were just 8 weeks out, and they were going to Disneyland, and they were doing great after their surgery, and everyone's just happy and just living their life, which is great, which I wish that would have been my story, but that's not my story. And I really struggled. And like I said, I'm 10 weeks out from surgery, and I am just now just living my life and feeling almost, I would say I'm 95% back to the normal Karen, and maybe some ways better than the Karen I was before. So next thing I know, here I am. I'm in surgery. I told you the last thing I remember was counting down from 300 and being on the operating table. Then the next thing I know, I am in the I'm in the recovery, the ICU, and I'm wide awake. I mean, my brain, I've never been more wide awake. I'm absolutely awake, and all my senses are going. I don't know if I could feel pain, to be honest with you. I can't remember if I could feel pain. If I was feeling pain, I didn't care about the pain. The pain was not my problem. The problem was I couldn't move, and I couldn't see. I couldn't move my diaphragm. I wasn't breathing for myself. I wasn't doing anything. All I know is I had a tube, and I don't remember, like I said, I don't know if I could feel touch. I don't remember if I could feel the tube. I almost think I did feel it in my lips, but I am wide awake, and I can hear everything very precisely, because mostly all my senses were very alert, because all I wanted was someone to know I was awake, and I was stuck in this body that was completely frozen. And I tried to move anything. I tried to move everything, anything, a toe, a finger, arm, eyelid, a lip, just anything. And I could hear the nurses coming and going. And then I could hear when my husband came in and my mother came in and were with me. And my husband knew that this was the part that I was the most nervous about. Like I said before, I was not nervous about being on the heart-lung machine. I wasn't nervous about having my chest cracked open. I wasn't nervous about my heart not beating anymore. I was nervous about waking up being intubated. And I don't know why. It could have been premonition. I don't know. But I'm wide awake, and I am in a body that's frozen. And the part that made it is kind of like just horrific. It felt like being buried alive, where the soil and everything is on my body to where I couldn't move. And then someone shoving a hose down in the earth to keep you alive. And so I can't express to you. Right now I'm talking about it like it's fine. I couldn't even talk about it before without crying. So that is what I woke up to. And I am like that for hours and hours and hours and hours. So, and since I can't see a clock, to me, it could have been days and days. That's how it felt inside that brain. So, they, like I said, she told me, I spoke with her the day before the surgery, that one nurse is in there who I spoke with, the breathing nurse, And she told me I would only be, oh, we're going to get you right off that. You're only going to be on the ventilator for like 30 minutes. And so, anyway, the whole day is passing. My husband and my mother there. And somehow, maybe the drugs were starting to wear off. I was able to cry. I had been doing this for so many hours and in my brain, fighting inside my own head and being so scared for hours and hours and hours. I finally was able, I could feel the tear going down my face. So I must have been able to feel too. I could feel the tear flowing down this eye right here. And my husband was sitting on this side of me, the right side. And he said, she's crying. And then the minute he said she's crying, I felt a lot more movement in the room, like more hustling around, like maybe the nurse is going, holy cow, she's awake, or I don't know, giving me another drug to help me wake up more. But I finally started to be able, right after the tear and she's crying and all the stuff going on in the room, I was able to start moving a hand and just barely getting my eyelids open like this. Oh, at the end of this video, I will share with you the video that my husband took of my mom helping me suck this saliva out of my mouth, and also the picture of me that they took when they thought I was still asleep. But in that picture, I know I'm wide awake. So it's a little bit, it was hard to look at. In fact, I wouldn't look at him until 6 months out. After I was 6 months out and I'd start sleeping again, did I look at those pictures and look at that video. So I will put them at the end. And like I said, I wouldn't advise watching it if you're nervous about the surgery. If you haven't had the surgery yet and you are nervous about it, you probably will be like 98%, 99% of the people that just have a normal surgery and normal recovery, and you'll be fine. Mine was not that way. So, and it was many layers of things that happened. It wasn't just happening with the sleep thing that started. It also was the medication. I had side effects of the medication. So my mother helped me for a couple more hours, suck out saliva and this and that. So the day's getting long. It's almost 8 o'clock and my husband has to leave because visiting hours are over. And I made him promise. I don't know if I started to say this earlier. He knew I was worried about this. So I made him promise that he would be there with me when they took out this ventilator. And so he was right with me. I mean, my husband's amazing. So he was with me that whole time, watching, recording, helping me be there, and helping me get through this, holding my hand, and just anything he could do to help comfort me in that situation. You'll see I needed comfort. So it was getting close to time. I could hear the nurses saying, you have to leave. And he's saying, but can I stay until you take out the tube, until you take the tube out? And they're like, no, you have to leave. Visiting hours over. And I could hear him start to cry as he's walking out the door. I can hear him being upset. His voice is cracking and he's starting to cry. And since I couldn't tell how much time didn't mean anything to me. So he left. I knew the time only because I knew visiting hours were done at 8 o'clock. So him and my mother left. And then time passed. And then I remember the nurse saying, okay. And I'm, then I'm being able to move my arms and stuff. I'm not stuck like under concrete, but I'm still really, everything feels super heavy. Like to move an eyelid, it feels like moving a huge, just maybe 50-pound weight of concrete, 50-pound weight of that quickcrete. And it is to move anything. And so she told me, she said, take a big breath out, like, take a breath in and then let it out and blow out as long as you can. And while I did that, she pulled out the tubes out of me. And then I must have slept and actually gone to sleep because the next thing I remember is them helping me into a chair the next day. My husband came for visiting hours and sitting in a chair with a whole bunch of tubes. You're going to have the surgery. You'll have a bunch of tubes hanging out your neck. It's like so many that your neck gets weighed down. And I have a scar right here. There it is. I have a scar right there. And it used to be worse, but now it's 10 months healing. And it was just so heavy, it, like makes your neck go down. So anyway, and they're monitoring everything, and I'm still in ICU. And I just, from that moment on, when I was up sitting in that chair, um, I would say something happened. At least something I noticed was my personality changed. That I am just generally, I'm totally an upbeat person. That's just how I am. I'm just born that way. I'm just, that's how I'm wired. And so I felt no upbeatness. I felt as if all joy had been taken from me, and all I was surviving. But little did I know it was going to get worse. So I just would hold my husband's hand. There's something, if you ever have a friend in the hospital, let me tell you, there's nothing better than touch, than someone holding your hand. That's all you can do it, because just him holding my hand would just bring comfort to me. So he was getting ready to go to lunch or something, and I had friends come visit, and when they came in the door, I remember being so happy to see them. And but yet I didn't smile. I wasn't so happy to see him that I was smiling and happy at him. All I could do was cry. I remember weeping and weeping and crying, and her holding my hand, and her husband, and they're both in the room, and I was holding their hands, and I just wept and wept. But I was happy to see him, but I couldn't have joy. I don't know how to explain what happened to me. I couldn't have joy. I could just cry because I knew they were there. Some comforting about it. So anyway, that day ends. The next morning, they moved me out of ICU, and I go into a regular room for recovery. And um, that is when just some things that happen. For those of you who are having the surgery, I had a little tiny, a little wire right here coming out of my chest, for they would check in my rhythm. If I needed to have a pacemaker after the surgery, then there's a connection already there. So they have that wire going to my heart. And so we didn't need it. My heart was working great, and it was strong. My beats were good. And so they took that wire out. That was one of the things they did. And then I'm looking down, but right here you have, anyway, right, right in the center of my chest, I had two big tubes that are drain tubes, and they're right at the bottom of like where your lungs would be probably. And there's two of them, and they're full of gross, nasty stuff. And um, I thought it was going to be really painful to have them yanked out, but it wasn't painful. It was uh, gooey. It was slimy. And so they take, their hands, the nurse, and they pull those out, and then they put a stitch. So there were stitches, and I still have scars. You'll have scars from those stitches too. So I have my big center scar down, from my sternum. I don't know if you can see the top part of it, but it's up here, and it goes down pretty far. And then those two holes from those tubes that they pulled out. And so that was pleasant. But it was nice to have the tubes out. It was nice. The only other thing tying me was the catheter. So that was the only other thing that kind of tied me down. And on the other thing is, you feel like you have a metal plate on your chest. So it felt like I had a metal plate, and so you can't move. You're not moving anywhere. You're not trying to, and the tubes are out, and the catheter's holding me down from going to the bathroom. I have to ask for help for everything, but you do get the hang of holding that pillow right here, and moving your body with your stomach muscles and your back muscles, and standing using your legs. You just do it, because you can't wait for the nurses all the time. It's just too busy. I don't know how your hospital's going to be, but for me to use the restroom, for me to do anything, especially I couldn't wait for that catheter to come out so that I could use the restroom and I could start walking around, because you want to start walking, you want to start moving, and they never have time to take you for walks. So hopefully you always have somebody there visiting you that can take you on walks and take you to do things and get moving. I would say as quick as you can. There's something in me that just was saying, Karen, move. You got to get up. You got to move. So I would take myself for walks. My husband was there, so they were allowing me to walk with him. Of course, they wouldn't let me walk alone, I'm sure. But moving around to be able to go to the bathroom by myself and do those things. So I was in the hospital for another 3 or 4 days, and each time I was getting better, especially my breath. The lady would come in, the lady was in charge of lung health or whatever, um, and she asked me. She was the same lady that I saw before the surgery, the same one that was in the ICU with me, pulled out the tubes, and she said, "Oh, you were the one that was nervous about your surgery." And she said, she kind of started to say, like, "It wasn't that bad, was it?" Like, and I looked at her in the face and I said, "I don't want to talk about it." And she shut up right away. She just went, and she turned and walked out the door. And I knew that she knew that it wasn't an easy case. Like, it was all day I was on that ventilator and into the night. And she didn't even know. I didn't even get a chance to talk to her because I was serious. I told you there was something about my personality that had changed, and I was very negative. I was very distraught. I was very, I don't know what the opposite of like having joy is. I was almost in terror all the time, a terror, a feeling of doom, a feeling that like I was making it and I was doing those things in the hospital, but really all I kept thinking was, I'm going to die. I'm going to die from this something. And I don't know why, but it was awful. And I'll talk about it in the next video because I'm already creeping up 16 minutes. Me coming home from the hospital and seeing a psychiatrist in the hospital when I went back in and meeting her, who changed my life. And thank goodness, thank God that I found her. And she was put in my path because I don't know where I would be without her. Because what happened to me during that time of me being awake in my mind, but frozen, caused me to not be able to fall asleep. And it was a nightmare. I would say it ruined my life, but I feel like now getting through it, I feel like my life is better. So anyway, I'll post right now the pictures of me in recovery, or not in recovery, when I woke up from the surgery in ICU, and I'll talk to you in episode 4. All right, Bug. Bye. Okay. She's breathing on her own. Mm-hmm. Yep, you're breathing on your own. Close your mouth. Click it in. There you go. Now open it. Which side? Neither?
She's good.
Okay.
She's not good.
Want it in? Okay. Yeah, when you close your mouth, that's how cold it sounds. There you go. You don't have to. That aggravated look there.